Welcome, everyone, to Unravel Your Mind, where we're transforming relationships to love and life. I'm so happy you're here. If you're on replay or you're here live, either way, there's lots of good questions coming up. And if you have more, don't forget, you can always put them in the comments below. I'll either answer them on this show or I'll answer them next week. So I'm looking forward to getting into all the juicy nuggets that people have submitted for this week's show. Let's go right to the chat and see what we've got here. Some really good things coming forward, some unexpected things, actually. One that I'm seeing is how to connect to your guides, and do we need to? So I like this question a lot because I've actually vacillated on this, believe it or not. I felt very connected to my guides over the years and felt that they really helped me through some of my most difficult challenges, gave me very specific information about what I should do. Then I did psychedelics, and I actually changed my perspective on this. I changed my perspective because I had experienced the bliss of divine oneness. So I was like, woo, right up there. And I thought, wait, everything between here and there, oneness, is an illusion of the mind. So why would I worry about guides or anything out there in other dimensions? Well, the reality is that we are living multidimensional lives. And there's so much happening that we actually don't even know about. And I kind of got a little, butt whooping here in the last few days, realizing that I was not listening to my guides, and I was in some ways sort of disrespecting them by thinking that I was just going to source. I was just going to go to consciousness, straight up there, my higher self, and forget about all this other funny business. And they came back to me and said, yeah, no, you're going to be suffering for a long time by yourself, being the Lone Ranger down there, trying to figure it all out on your own. And I was like, oh, it was reflected to me from someone who I actually don't know very well. And they basically said, I'm getting that they're telling me you're not connecting. And he asked me, how often are you connecting with your guides? And while I do a lot of different things where I feel like I connect in, I don't acknowledge them by name or by vibration. And he's like, yeah, they're pretty much saying that if you're not connected into them, they don't know how they can trust you with more upgrades. And so I was like, oh gosh, that made so much sense to me. I was just like, yes, I need to get back to connecting in a real personal way with my guides. For some of you, this is a no-brainer. For others, you might be saying, wait, what are you talking about, guides? So if you don't have a guide and you don't know what a guide is for you, I would suggest a couple of different things. I've got a whole host of people that can help you find your guides, and I'll talk about them in a little bit. But if you want to try on your own, it is very simple as far as being in a more meditative state. And there's a couple of things you can do. One, you can sit with your hand on your belly, your third chakra. I like to do my left and my right over my heart, and taking some really big, deep belly breaths in. So your belly is going out, and then you're releasing. And to do that 5 or 6 times. In fact, I just got this validated when I had a reading, and this was exactly what my guides were asking me to do, is to breathe deep and really connect in. And for me, when I do this and I just clear my mind, I just see myself go up into another higher dimension. So it's like that place where you're above your thoughts, like you're way up there and you're just observing yourself down here. And when you're up there, I like to think of having a little tea party and inviting the guides to be with me. And sometimes you'll hear them, they'll have something to say that's very clear. Sometimes you'll just feel their essence. I know for one of my guides, he shows me a ruby ring, but I don't actually hear exactly the words a lot of times. And I feel his presence, but I don't see him. So I don't see any details about him. So each guide presents a little bit differently, in your relationship with them changes over time based on how much you're interested in actually getting to know them and to knowing the details about them. So that's one easy way you can do it. If you're not finding success with that, simple technique to just really quiet your mind, take the deep breaths and ground yourself, and then go upward I highly recommend. There's several people in my Awakening and Healing Handbook, but one in particular, Julie, and I'll put her information in this description below too, because I just had a reading with her again. She's a dear friend, but an incredible, incredible medium, and I have also interviewed her. So I guess I could put that link here too, so you can get a feel of what she does. But she is able to really tap into my guides and give me information that I'm not receiving. So when I'm not 100% tapped in, I do reach out for others to help me, because that's what we're all here for. We're all walking each other home together. And so why not get a little help? So I highly recommend Julie as someone that can help you identify who your guides are. If you feel like you're not connecting, or if you are connecting, and you're just not getting the clarity, like was my situation. Definitely reach out to her or any other psychic medium that you have a close relationship with, and just ask. And I think the other thing is just ask your guides, show me. The other way that I really get in and hear what my guides have to say, if you want to say guides, higher self, in this particular situation, I think that there's some similarities to it, but I actually sat with several angel pictures. They're pictures that were taken by someone that I've also interviewed on another episode of the show, or had a discussion with. It's not really an interview, but a discussion. And he has photographs of angels that appear to be in like orb form. And so I did the exercise that he recommended and was able to really tap into a specific angel. And with one question, I asked a series of different angels what their response was, and the response was amazing. And I was so happy that I'd taken the time and just really communicated with those particular angels, because they gave me so much information. And sometimes I think when I'm just sitting and I'm just going to my higher self, you're sitting in that place of oneness. You're sitting in a beautiful place and feeling expanded states of consciousness. But sometimes the answers aren't always coming there. And so when I sit to journal, I call it remote writing. And I also talk about that in the Awakening and Healing Handbook, but it's really just sitting and allowing your hand to write. Very important for me to actually write with pen and paper as opposed to typing. I can do it typing, but the pen just feels like it really brings just a whole nother element to it. So when I sit and I write and I ask a question, we can go specific to a guide or to an angel, or just ask the question. So we don't have to get all caught up in the semantics, but your guides are there. They're happy for you to hear. They're happy to hear from you saying that you want to connect with them. So please do, if that feels right. Ask their name if you don't have their name, and just start writing, what's your name, and see what comes through the pen or the pencil. When I do this, I get profound information, very profound information. And oftentimes the next day I look at it and I'm like, gosh, who wrote this? And I know that I wrote it, but it really does come from a channel. So that's been really helpful for me, especially over the last few months when we've had so many ups and downs, and there's so much energy happening and just crazy things happening out there in the universe. So yeah, it's a great way to just get grounded. And oftentimes I just look back at what I've written before, and because I still maybe have a similar question, or there's something there. So it's great to be able to write it and respond back to it, or refer back to it, I should say, and in the future. So yeah, I do very much believe in guides. I believe that we should all connect with our own guides, have a relationship with them. So at times when we may not feel as supported by our fellow mates here in the third dimension, we know that we're always supported, we're always guided, and we're never alone. And sometimes that's a hard concept to feel when the chips are down or when things are happening. So very much encourage everyone to stay connected to their guides, get connected to your guides, and to build that relationship. And as you do, you will get more upgrades, and you will get more information that comes to you, and you will expand your consciousness simply by having that relationship, because they'll help you with all of your relationships here on the earth plane. And I think that's the other thing that came through that was so clear from them, is as they said, yeah, Beth, we get it that you want to just go North Star and oneness, but there is a lot of dimensions between here and there. And you've specifically chosen to be on planet Earth, which is vibrating at a particular level, and you're having experiences at this vibrational level. Therefore, we have a lot of things that we can share with you in guidance as to how to navigate in that level of vibration. So I was like, oh, yes, okay, got it, good. So I hope that helps for all of you. If you're interested in connecting with your guides, I highly recommend it. Okay, let's see. What else do we have here in the chat? Oh, okay. Well, I'm just going to use a bit of a code word on this. The V, or maybe I'll say the shot. What are my thoughts on this? Do I think people should have it? And this to me is kind of an old question. I appreciate, that it was asked, and I'll say this: everything's a distraction right now. The shots, the politics, all of this stuff is a distraction. Make a decision that is right for you, and that's right for everyone else. And don't get caught up in the rhetoric around trying to convince someone else to do something, or think that you need to tell everybody else what they need to do, or tell everybody else even what your feelings are. I'm not saying don't share. I'm just saying stay out of the mud with this, because all of these COVID, all of this stuff are distractions from your awakening that takes your energy away. Especially as we move into all these political times. Do not get caught up in this. I'm not saying that you don't want to stand up for your beliefs. I'm just saying have your beliefs, do what's right for you, but don't spend your energy and your physical life force for these agendas that are out there. They're just not where you want to put your energy. Put your energy on healing and awakening yourself to greater and more expanded levels of consciousness, higher vibration, because all of this stuff, it lowers your vibration. And so we don't want to get caught up in that. The other thing I'll say is that when it comes to your body is the most intelligent thing on planet Earth. Your body knows how to fight viruses. It knows how to fight cancers. It knows how to fight colds. It knows how to fight anything. It is the most intelligent thing here on Earth. Don't discount that. Don't scramble it. Eat well. Eat clean. Eat in moderation. Do everything in moderation. Do things that, listen to your body. What does your body need? That to me is more the focus than deciding about other things that may or may not help you with viruses or bacterias or whatever. So it's a time to tune in. It's a time to tune into your body and to get what your body needs. And a lot of times it's the simple things like rest, sleep, fun, and eating good, nutritious things that you're eating light, right? And I mean light, like sunlight. You're eating plants. I'm not a vegetarian. I'm just saying that eating plants is so much more fulfilling for your body at a cellular level than eating something that's dead and something that holds a much lower vibration. And so your choice, just something to think about. So I think let's not get caught up in these distractions. Let's keep moving forward with our own awakening and our own relationship to everything out there in love and in life, and transform these situations that want to bring our vibration down into a sense of argumentation or getting our side across, or any of those things are not serving the greater good of humanity. So yeah, stay on task for your own awakening. When we shine the light and show the way, that's where we really contribute to the awakening and healing on the planet. So hopefully that helps answer that question. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Do you think that it's better to use relationships for growth or value? I'm not sure I understand that question exactly, but I guess I feel that every relationship is here for our growth, our spiritual awakening. And I think that we value that. So I think we value the growth that we're experiencing. And we value that other person for the lessons and the insights that they're reflecting to us as a mirror for what's inside of us, right? So everything in our external reality, whether it's a people, place, or thing, is reflecting an aspect about ourselves that we want to see. So I would very much say that it's a little bit of both. I don't think we're using relationships. I think we're leveraging relationships for our awakening. We're listening to our relationships. We're being present and connected to our relationships, even if it's our relationship to food. Staying connected and really appreciating and being grateful for what it took to get that plate of spinach on your table, and really being present, I think is the most important thing when it comes to relationships, and taking off some of the intensity around what a relationship has to mean. Just get the lessons in every moment of now, and that's where the beauty lies, is experiencing other people, whether it's friends or romantic partners, to just experience, like, where am I, and how do I feel about spending time with this person, and do they make me feel good, and if they don't make me feel good, what's in there for me, what's the nugget for me, and of course, if they're triggering something in you, then that provides a lot of value as well, right? So there's lots of different ways we can look at relationships, but I think that really just honoring the blessing that we have to be in relationship with others, even when they're strained, even when they're a little bit more challenging. Those are the juiciest ones, because they bring us the deepest nuggets of wisdom that we're really, really looking for. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question. If not, as always, put comments in the text below, and I'm happy to answer more. All right, so next question. I'm over 50 and children are no longer an option for me. While I'm okay with this, sometimes I feel like I wonder if I made a mistake along the way. Do you think women without children are missing out? Well, I think that we have our soul's plan, and whether we're going to have children or not is part of that soul's plan. So I don't think that anyone who doesn't have children is technically missing out, because that would be counterintuitive to what they've set themselves up for in this lifetime. But I know, as a single woman myself who doesn't have children, and as an auntie, and having some opportunities to spend some time with my nephews, there's certainly things that I am missing out on not being a mother. But I wouldn't say, like, overall in my life that I'm missing out, because I feel very divinely guided, and that it was my destiny to not have children in this lifetime. I didn't always believe that. I thought early on that I was absolutely destined to have children, and then came to the realization that no, actually, I don't feel that children are on my path, at least my own children. Perhaps a partner who has children or grandchildren is very much welcomed, but not for me. So I think the number one thing that comes forward to say is, any energy you spend on thinking that you've missed out, FOMO, the fear of missing out, is not energy well spent. So while you can reflect and contemplate, if you're at a place where having children is really not an option, I mean, I guess you could still consider adopting, but I really think that deep inside, like, whether or not this was meant to be part of your journey. And if you feel like it was, and you don't have them and you can't, and you feel like that longing deep in your soul, I would still say to just sit with that, and to sit in acceptance for what is. And ask spirit, your guides, your higher self, to come in and provide you with whatever you need to feel the wholeness that you already are, because love is within. And oftentimes a longing for children is a longing for connection, and a longing for not being lonely, and wanting to have an extension of yourself. And all of that is wonderful and fabulous. But it's also not necessary, because we are all connected, and we're connected to source, and the source of our love is within ourselves. So there's really no need to have love outside of ourselves. While I say that, I recognize the power of having someone reflect love back to us. And I love it too, whether it's love from nephews, whether it's love from parents, whether it's love from friends or a lover. It's always wonderful to experience those feelings. So I'm not discounting the actual human experience. I'm just saying that, yeah, love is really within us. And so if you haven't had children and you're feeling a little bit down about it, just feel into that, and feel into what that what that means for you. And again, just accepting what is, and asking for maybe some other options as to how you might interact with children. It might not be adopting. It might be that you ask friends who have children, hey, can I spend some time with your children? Or can I, if they're small enough, can I babysit? Or, can I participate in some way that gives me that experience? Or maybe you go out and have, a foster child, or go out and I can't remember what the program is called, where you sort of have a big brother, big sister program, where you can spend some time with young people and just have that connection to that playful energy. And as I say that, oftentimes, children, what they bring us is that innocence and that playful energy. And so it's a longing to have that reflected to us. And so I say, just go out and have fun and play like a child and do things that your own inner child wants to experience, whatever that is. Go out and just have fun. So, all right, let's see the next one, if we have anything also from the live callers. Okay, so let's just go into this. When is sex healthy versus an addiction? Well, I think that's an interesting question, because again, I feel some of these questions are really personal. When you think that you need someone else to make you happy in any way, and since we're talking about sex, I would say if you feel that you need someone to gratify you through a sexual act of any sort, I think there's a level of maybe not addiction, but a misplacement of the why behind the union. And so I think that when we're not aligned with the why, which is to share our soul with someone and to have someone reflect back to us in a more tantric sexual encounter, when we're not doing that, sometimes that sexual encounter can feel more addictive, because if it's a desire and it's like just a need, like I'm trying to get to the right word for the difference in the vibration of it, because it's a little tricky sometimes, I think, because desire is there and you feel that connection to someone and that chemistry, and that doesn't mean you're addicted to them. But when you feel like you need that to facilitate a feeling of belonging for yourself, or a feeling of I'm okay, or a feeling of I'm loved, then that's where we start to move into that more addictive territory, because you're wanting to get something from someone else. You're wanting validation, gratification, something from them, as opposed to showing up and wanting to share your soul in an equal way, where it's a give and receive, and it's a sharing of souls, a sharing of love. When we're really in love with ourselves, it's the best way we can share ourselves with others when they're also in love with themselves, so that you're actually in a really beautiful, solid place and space. So addiction to sex, I think, again, is when you're seeing something really outside of you that you need, that you want to grab onto, that you desire to have. If you're finding yourself as someone who is, going out and looking for someone to have sex with, then that's more addictive than going out to find someone to share your soul with. And again, it's not a clear definition of addiction, of course. I'm just suggesting that it's an addiction of the mind. It's a mind virus that makes you think or believe that your value is somehow related to your sexual power, your sexual appeal. And that's not how it works. Yes, it works like that, but that's not, in awakening, that's not where we're at. We're wanting to be in a level of consciousness where we can really show up naked and vulnerable on a soul level, not just, on our physical body level, where we can really be in that union and that bliss of divine oneness. And oftentimes we achieve like these amazing places with our partners, especially when the polarity is very vast, right? So when let's say a masculine dark is with a feminine light, there's a huge polarity in that, and sexually, and that creates an amazing chemistry that can actually bring both people to God, in the sense of, not just in the sense of an orgasm, but in the sense of communion and of sharing and of, opposites attract and like magnets. So there's a lot of beauty that can happen in these relationships. So I digress a little bit, but I like to talk about that because I think that it's so much fun when we do find people in our lives and partners that are great polarity reflectors for us, because it allows us to be deep into the experience. And so when we're lucky enough to have those and not get into an addiction and not get into a desire to have that to fulfill ourselves, but as a desire to share ourselves, there's a big difference there. So, all right, let's go to the next question, see what we've got. How do you think having money or not having money impacts someone's spiritual journey? Well, I'll say this. I think that a lot of light workers who are on a deep spiritual journey have given up a lot when it comes to money, partly because they're not attached to it, and partly because their spiritual journey becomes so innately important to them that everything else kind of drops away and falls away. And yet that can be really difficult and challenging, because when we don't have money, we don't have freedom and opportunities to still live in this dimension and to still, pay a mortgage or pay rent or buy food or go out and have some of the fun luxuries that the third dimension offers us. So I think that it's important that we have money, and I think it's important that we attract money. I think our attachment to it is what is important to learn. So that would be the deeper part of the spiritual lesson of how you're feeling about money and how you are attached to it or not attached to it. And I like to encourage all light workers to believe and know that abundance is their birthright, not just in love, but in finances. And if all the light workers, way showers, goddesses, angels, all had kings, all had money, we could do a lot with that money and we could change things overnight. So money is not a bad thing. Money is not the root of all evil. Our attachment to it can be, and or our lack of desire to participate in this third dimension. But again, for each person, what you need financially is really a decision for you to make. I'm just saying, hey, let's consider, really being part of this circuit of money, because there's so many great things that money can bring in giving back and helping others. And it's the circulation. Money is an energy like anything else. So whatever your relationship to it is, it's hard for me when I see highly spiritual, highly conscious people struggling for money. And that's always just not an easy place to be, and it can be difficult. So before you get into money struggles, I think it's really about changing the way that you look at money and your relationship to money, and how you are putting your own energy out there to receive money back in abundance and know that your value is there. So I think money is an important part of the spiritual journey. It's just not an attachment that you need to have to it. Okay, another question. Why isn't there a how-to guide for ascension? I think that's a funny one, because I think a lot of people say, why isn't there a manual? Why isn't there a manual for raising children, right? And even if there was, for anyone who has children, we know that even if there was a manual, you wouldn't follow it. Your child wouldn't follow the manual, because each spirit comes in, kicking and screaming, literally, with their own agenda, their own soul's plan. And so there's really no how-to guide for any of this, right? So for our own ascension plan, I mean, there's millions and millions and millions of ways home to God, to our godlike self, to aligning with source, to aligning with oneness. And because you're the creator of your life, it's unique to you. Everything is unique to you. Every experience that you have, every big point that you've put into your plan coming into this lifetime, all the free will that you have making decisions along the way, to make another choice, another choice, another choice. It's exponential, like how many different ways you can go. So while, yeah, it would be nice if somebody said, do this and then this will happen, do that and then this will happen. But we know that's not how it works. It just doesn't work that way. There's no spirit in a body out there that wants to or would actually follow step by step some kind of manual for ascension and awakening. It's an everyday, every moment process. That's the manual, is to stay in the moment and to learn everything that moment has to offer. And it doesn't always have to be learned, but to experience what that moment has to offer. And if there's something to reflect on later, great. And if not, great, right? Then you're just in the moment. You're experiencing the moment. In fact, I was just having a conversation with a dear friend, and we were just talking about like times when we don't really like the moment, and how should we still be bringing in just like, I just love this moment. And I think there's sort of an interesting space there where you can, I'm not at all into faking things. So I wouldn't say, oh yeah, just fake it and pretend like you're like really into that documentary that doesn't make you feel good. But it's really your response to your own emotion, right? That you don't have to project an energy that is negative, or that is not serving your own happiness. So we have the emotion up, this doesn't feel good. We let it flow through. Not that interested in this documentary. And then we just move on from there, right? We just move on from there and we see, oh, but you know what? I sat with some really incredible friends. I had great conversation around it. The documentary provided an opportunity for all of us to get together and just focusing on the parts that felt really, really great. So I don't think we have to sit through everything and just pretend like we're happy. I think we just want to have the experience, have the emotion, and then move through it and move on, right? And then find the good things that surround it. And I know how hard that can be at times. I myself, if we're in a funky place, we haven't had enough sleep, there's other things happening, it's harder sometimes to shift. But one of the things that I always like to talk about is coming back to that blissfully neutral state. Stuff's going to happen. People are going to cut you off. Things are going to not make you happy in moments. But it's like, how long does it take you to just navigate back to that blissful place where you're just like hunkered in and you're grounded and you're happy to be on planet Earth? And you're like, thank you. Thank you for that experience. Next. What's next? What's next? And being in that childlike curiosity of excitement. And I know that can be challenging, but it doesn't have to be. It's a constant shift of the mind, right? So as we're unraveling our mind and unraveling all the ideas that the social thought constructs our culture has set forth for us and programmed and, imprinted in our brains, we can still really just let go of those things. And we don't have to make judgments. All judgments come from the ego mind. So it's really about stopping the judgments and how we are trying to compare ourselves or judge someone for something. Those are all ego thought constructs. So, all right, let's go to the next question. Let's see what we've got. Okay. How do you know you're in the flow? Well, I think a lot of athletes know what that feels like when you're in the flow, where you just feel like you're just kind of going and your mind isn't involved in this. And it really feels effortless, even at times when it's really challenging. Another analogy that comes to mind, and it was actually something that came up in a conversation with a friend as well, was, when you're on a bicycle and the wind is behind you and you just feel like you're just like being supported, versus when you're riding your bicycle and you're going into the wind and just how you feel like that resistance. Well, if whatever you're doing in life feels like you have the wind behind your back and it's helping to blow you, you're in the flow. It's really that simple. And if you feel like you're going up against the resistance, then I think there's a couple of options to consider. I was raised with, where there's a will, there's a way, right? Like push through it and you can make it. And while sometimes that does serve me, and sometimes we do need to just push through something in a gentler way, and not in a forceful way, but in a way that we actually are in spirit, and we know we're aligned with something, and we're just moving through it. We're not fighting against it. So a big difference there in how we interact with something that we might feel a resistance to. So we know immediately when we're not in the flow on something. And I also think monitoring the mind in these situations can be really helpful, because we know that once we get a thought that's of a little bit lower vibration, the next one comes, and the next one, and the next one. And before we know it, we've spiraled into the rabbit hole. And now we're feeling the emotion in our body. And it's so much harder to get out there, so much harder to be in the flow when we're in the hole, right? You can't ride the bicycle if you've fallen in the pothole and you're on the ground, or you're in the hole. So really just paying attention and having that discernment of, okay, got it. I hear the thought. I don't want to go down that road. I don't want that thought. Shift it. Everything is a thought away. And we know that thoughts create our things, right? So create things, whether it's our situations or our physical environment. And so always do your own mind monitoring and just know, that's not a thought I want. That's not the vibration I want to go in. Maybe it's calling a friend that you know is always going to be optimistic and friendly for you. So lots of ways to know that you're in the flow and to stay in the flow. So I hope that helps. And if not, again, comment below if there's more discussion. All right. What's been the hardest thing for you on your spiritual path? If you're okay, I think this is where the question ends. Okay, so what's been the hardest thing for you on your spiritual path? Gosh, I think there's so many things. And yet I think okay, that's not the right way to answer that. Let's see. The hardest thing for me on my spiritual path is when I think I've got something, I think I've got a concept, I think I've crossed a bridge, I think I've worked through something, I've come to another like expansion in my consciousness, and then I get tested. And so it's like, oh gosh, I just got through that. Like, I feel like I just broke through that limiting belief, or that limiting idea about how the universe works, or whatever it is. And then boom, I get tested to see, like, okay, do you really believe the lesson that you just learned? Do you really trust? Are you really there in that energy? That's where it gets hard, because sometimes I want to revert back and say, I already learned that. I already did that. But it's a test. I call them initiations, right? They're just initiations. Like, where are you really at on that? You might have learned that. You might know that. You might have embodied that. But the universe is always going to give you another little nudge, another little, let's see if he or she gets it. Like, can she apply it? Right? So we get something, we get a spiritual concept, we get an idea, we expand. And then if we can't embody it and be it with our brothers and sisters out there, if we can't show it and share it, then we're just not quite there yet. So we always want to be able to embody these concepts. And so that part, I would say, is probably the most difficult for me, because I'm really hard on myself a lot of times. And I'm like, I thought I knew that, I should know better, those kinds of self-deprecating thoughts. And then I quickly just have to go back to, no. I know, and I'm thankful for that lesson that I went through and that I learned. And I'm thankful for this lesson that's showing me again something that's near and dear to my heart, to see just where am I with this. So really important to be able to, again, shift back to that blissfully neutral state and know that you are connected at all times, and the universe is here to provide for you. The scarcity ideas are out there, but you do not have to believe them or participate in them in any way, whether it's scarcity of love, money, any of the things that that haunt us in this third dimensional realm. They do not have to. It's all coming from our minds. So that's why we're unraveling our minds. Yes, unraveling our minds to unveil the illusions that we have. And speaking of which, if you haven't already picked up the book, Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics, Unraveling the Mind to Unveil Illusions, the audiobook is out. Had some really fun feedback on both the audiobook and the book. So I hope that you'll take a moment and check out the link below. Tune in, and I've narrated the book myself, so it's fun. A lot of people have said they feel like if they're listening in the car, they're like, I feel like you're right in the passenger seat. So I feel great about that, because then it makes me feel like I am in the passenger seat, and I love to be on everyone's journey and to help out in any way that I can, or just to share in the camaraderie of the craziness and the joy and the love and everything that we experience here in this dimension as humans. So I think that's it. I'm going to check one more minute here. Let's see if I've got any other. Yep, I've got someone, Jack, welcome. I've never connected to my guides, but I've listened to my intuition a lot. And thank you for that comment, because listening to our intuition is also part, I believe, of listening to our guides. We're getting that gut feeling whether it's a guide or your intuition, it's all vibration, it's all energy, it's all a beautiful place that when we can tune into it, that's our powerful superpower, because then we're really letting our soul in the driver's seat, not our ego mind. And as I've said before, and as my dear friend always reminds me, when you let that ego mind drive, it's like putting a 2-year-old in the driver's seat. So thank you, Jack. Following your intuition is the best way to be, and really getting that gut feeling, and it's your second brain. So yeah, great comment. All right. Unless there's any final last questions, I think we will wrap it up for today. I am so excited that you're all here. Please subscribe, hit the bell. You'll get notifications when we go live. And I'd love to hear any questions, comments on replay in the notes below. So please comment, and I'll be sure to either answer them here or answer them next week. So thank you all for being here and unraveling your mind with me. All right. Have a great week.